Welcome to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition of what is in our stand today. Today I have a gentleman's bike in my stand that basically is a referral. I sold his wife a saddle about a year ago and she was quite happy with it, and so she referred him to me. And his issue on his bike is that his crankset, he finally noticed, never paid attention to it before, or maybe it became worse, but he noticed that the crankset had a little bit of side-to-side play, lateral play, and so he brought it to me so I could see what was going on. We found out it's missing some parts, a shim or a wave washer to take up that play. So he brought the bike to me, we noticed that, and then we also noticed that the non-drive side cup or non-drive side bearing was a little bit notchy, so we're going to replace that. Okay, let's take a look at the bike, and then I'll walk you over to the stand, to my bench I should say, and we'll look at the parts that we're putting in and the tools that we will use. Okay, so here's the bike. It is a Fuji, and it has an FSA Gossamer crankset, which an interesting anecdote is way back when Fabian Cancellara was riding a Cervelo, one of the high-end Cervelos with, you know, obviously a carbon bike with carbon wheels and all this, in the Pro Tour, he actually used to use this FSA Gossamer crank, aluminum crank, which is pretty close to the bottom end of their lineup. They've since made quite a few upper-end cranksets, so this was probably the bottom end at the time, so they've made some cranksets below it and above it. I believe like the Omega's one step below this one, which is fairly common for OE, original equipment, for bike manufacturers to put on their bikes. So there's an interesting story for you on the FSA Gossamer crankset. Well, this crankset, I've already taken the other crank arm off. It's sitting on the bench just for sake of ease and brevity on the video. The other thing he mentioned to me was that he had a little bit of front derailleur rub on the chain, which is very possible that because of the excessive play on the crankset laterally, that at some point, even though the front derailleur is adjusted properly, it does grind or wear a little bit on the front derailleur cage. A couple other things he mentioned to me that he'd like for me to address. One is the rear shifting is a little bit, it hangs a little bit, so it probably just needs a barrel adjuster adjusted. And back here, sometimes, you know, 2 or 3 of the gears, cogs, I noticed there was a little bit of lag, so it wasn't every time, but we're going to try to get rid of that. Also, his rear wheel is out of true, and fortunately this particular Mavic wheel does not have the proprietary nipples and spokes that are common in some of their higher end wheels, so we can just take a standard spoke wrench and work on that. So we've got a few things here. We're going to work on the bottom bracket, replace that. We're going to ensure that the shifting is proper for the front derailleur. We're going to adjust the rear derailleur. We're going to true the rear wheel, and then let's walk over to the bench real quick. So here's the new bottom bracket, and it comes with spacers, shims, and the wave form washer, I believe they call these, and that should help take up some of the play. At the same time, it also provides some preload onto the bearings. So bearings like to be a little bit pressed, just a tiny bit, so that they function properly, and the crankset needs to be at a certain amount of torque when installed. Here's the torque value printed right onto the crankset. So it's hard to not follow torque values when a manufacturer puts it right on there. So that's really nice. We will need a press to press in the new bottom bracket. And then here's the torque wrench. And then the tools to extract that bottom bracket, I'm hoping is just going to be this rubber mallet and this bottom bracket removal tool. And then here is an 8mm Allen head that we will use to apply the proper torque. So I do appreciate all of you that watch the channel and watch the videos. So make a comment. I would be happy to field any and all of your questions. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. And I obviously like when people like and share the content with their friends. Looking forward to hearing what type of lifespan you're getting from your pressed in bottom brackets. This is a BB86, BB92, and sometimes I find that these don't last as long as a threaded bottom bracket. This is an example of a threaded bottom bracket. So I'm curious to see and hear from you folks what type of life you're getting out of your pressed in bottom brackets. Okay, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the road.